if your wife asks you to go get some chicken, it's probably already cooked by the time you get home. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Snowcat SRT and behind me is my 2016 Alfa Romeo 4C Spider. Today in this video I'll be talking about my ownership and all the issues I've had with this car, as well as the good and the bad. Stay tuned. So this is actually my second car. My first is a Dodge Challenger Hellcat 2016 that has been extensively modified. You can check that out in the corner. And I drive this car as much as I drive that car, so I'm not putting that much mileage on either of them. I'm sort of separating and also get to enjoy both of those cars. It has around 4,000 miles on it, which is 6,700 kilometers, and I put all those miles in basically in 1 year. Being in the Middle East, this car goes through a lot. I mean, here you get very hot summers, a lot of wind, dust. It's very windy today actually, and it has to go through all the elements, and it's an island as well, so the salt from the sea is also a factor. And so far this car has presented itself perfectly. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. The paint is keeping up, everything is fine. Maybe some of the clear is having a little bit of an issue here, but that's just the clear coat. That's something that's very easily repairable, and that is no issue at all. Go and look around, even the roof here, I try to maintain it as much as I can, and if you keep on maintaining it, it keeps its original black, deep black color. The only issue I have with this car is the fact that these vents are open here, and every time you wash it, all the dust goes into the engine bay. So that's basically extra maintenance that you have to deal with while owning this car. If you want to keep it clean, you want to keep the engine bay clean, and let's be honest, this car looks amazing when it's clean, and it's something that you really want to keep it that way just to show it off. So let's start from the front, from the exterior, and have a look at some things that you might not know about this car. So the first thing, as you can see, the car is quite low. And first time I saw this car, I thought I had a lot of issues with speed bumps, but that isn't simply the case. I don't know how they managed to do it, but the bumper isn't that far off from the front wheels, and I managed to take and traverse any speed bump so far that I've met in the Bahrain. And yeah, we do have some crazy speed bumps, but this thing has no problem. It doesn't bottom out in the middle, the front or the back. Frontal visibility is also great, so when you're inside you can see everything perfectly out. You don't have sensors in the front. For some that might be a downside. To me it doesn't really matter. I'm used to not having sensors in the front, and with the amount of visibility you get in the front, there's no issue with seeing where you're going or how to place the front wheels. And the last fun bit that you have with this car, which I'm sure you've seen in previous videos, is the washer fluid. So you have to unscrew these 4 screws over here to be able to get into the washer fluid container, and then pour it in with a little nozzle that you get with the car. That is not very convenient, to be honest. And what else is inconvenient? Opening the boot. So you go around to the back, you want to get something out, you can't. There's no way of opening it. You have to go into the door, and the only thing they take from Ferrari is this lever here. Alright, so I have my briefcase with me, and now I'm going to demonstrate how I have to put this thing into the Alfa Romeo 4C. So first of all, I have to go over here to the door, open up the door, grab the latch, pull that. You got to bend over, make sure all your hamstrings are working fine. Come over here to the back, open it up, and this thing is quite heavy. Put it in, and that's it. Now if you have 2 bags, you have an issue, because you have to put one inside, one on the floor, or both of them on the floor or on the side. And if you put them both on the floor, you just put this over here and hold it like that. In the, what is it, 2019? Come on, Alfa Romeo. I mean, you could have just made this lighter and give it automatic hinges. But let's say you forgot something, so you have to do it all over again. Hopefully you can see that something like this on a daily basis is not fun, and it gets quite annoying. What also is annoying is the fact that they place the boot behind the engine. And I don't know if you can see, but there's not that much insulation between the boot and the engine. So if your wife asks you to go get some chicken, it's probably already cooked by the time you get home. Locked. to do it again. All right, so let's have a closer look at the interior. Italians are known for their exterior designs, but not for their electronics, which is quite visible in this car. If you have a look inside, because they tried to keep the weight so low, you have 1970s dials in the middle over there that are paired with a 90s style radio aftermarket with a new double clutch system that is plastic and more plastic, and then one part is actually metal. Then you have the plastic doors with this metal billet part, which is really nice, and this is really cheap, I guess. And the seats are beautiful. I love the yellow stitching, but when it comes to actually riding in this car, they're not very comfortable. Like, pretty much no padding. You can't put the seats back, so as you can see, you have this wall behind you, so you're pretty much stuck with what you get. Now I'm also going to demonstrate how you actually get into this car, which is quite a feat, especially if you're driving this daily. You have to make sure that you've done your stretching and you're not actually getting into this car after the gym, but before. So make sure you can reach every single part. You've got your hamstrings flexed, because this requires some movement. So the way I do it is I put one foot in, like this. Then you have to watch out for the steering wheel and kind of sit down and hope you hit the seat. Ugh. Very comfortable. And then move your leg across while trying not to hit this, which I've done before. And you will probably do if you buy this car. And once you're in, everything is great. But then you realize that you don't have your key with you, or it's in your back pocket. And the thing is, if you forget the key in your back pocket, not too graceful. All right, so now we are actually ready, set to go. The belt, the seat belt is right back here. As you can see, it's very comfortable to reach for. You are strapped in and you're ready to go. And this happens every day. I don't know how many times. I mean, if you're as forgetful as me, you're gonna have a workout. Casper is right here with me. He helps me with a lot of videos. And he's gonna now show how he gets to the car. I'm 181 centimeters tall, while he is 189.
Yes, right. The procedure for me is the same instance.
Oh, let me get this water bottle out of the way and put it somewhere useful. Yes, by the way, there's nowhere to put it. So between my legs. And that's one leg, good, good. Oh, all right.
And then, again, making sure you don't hit the cardboard box. Sorry, interior panel. And then, snug as a bug in a rug.
And one also thing that's quite annoying for the passenger is this little AC controller, because that kind of gets in the way of your legs. So with me, I have a lot of space. I can actually lie. I mean, a lot of space. And I don't have that much space, but it's quite comfortable for this kind of classic car. But that side is, yeah, he's. You're not having a good day, are you?
No, it's not too pleasant.
You might be asking, why are we doing this? Well, because let's imagine that you have a girlfriend, you have a wife, and you go out to a party, you have a car like this, it's your third car, it's your fourth car, whatever, and you want to take her out. Well, she will not be very comfortable, although she will look probably great in this car. So will you with actually a woman, not me with a Dutch man. And she will also face these issues. And also another issue she will face is that not a very graceful exit.
As I shall now demonstrate. Bear in mind, imagine I'm wearing a skirt.
The inexplicable design of the 4C is pure seduction.
Graceful.
Alfa Romeo, baby. Is your elbow okay?
It's getting there. It's a bit sore.
The real essence of Alpha defies description.
Okay, all right, now I want to demonstrate how much space you have actually in here for things like your phone, your wallet, and all that. And the truth of the matter is, not much. No door pockets, no pockets in here. If something falls down there, it's literally gone. You have a little back pocket here, And I'm sitting in the car right now, so let's demonstrate. Like, for example, you put your phone there and it starts to ring. Well, that's not very easy to get to. Yeah, and you can put your documents there, and yeah. And then while you're driving, you have nowhere to rest your right arm. I know this is very close, but you have nowhere to rest your right arm. So down here, you have this, like, of course, you have your cigarette kind of disposal ashtray, and your arm rests on that, and that really hurts when you after a long time. It's not very comfortable. And then you have a cup holder here, which is useless. And one last thing that I would like to mention before I take this car out for a drive is this is the Spider, so the roof does come off. The problem is the only place you can place it is in the back here. And I have usually a lot of gear with me, camera stuff and all that, so yeah, I can't really run with the top down, and it's also manual. And yes, after owning this car, I've probably done it, taken off the roof a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4, and it's just actually easier to keep it on and have some luggage with you. Time to go for a drive. Alright guys, so we're in the Alfa Romeo 4C right now, and before I start this car, I just want to say that I have the optional sport exhaust, which is basically a straight pipe. If you have any issues with the police, which you will have with this car because they think that you've modified the exhaust, it's kind of hard to explain that it actually comes like this loud from the factory. Here I don't have that many issues with it, but I know a couple of people in Europe who do. And California, you guys also have to be careful. Anyways, let's head out and talk about the car and how it drives. And especially at a time like this, the sun visors are absolutely useless. So my basic commute is mostly highway. I would say 80%, 85% highway, since I live in a small island in Bahrain. And I don't get to drive this thing as much on B roads, and when I do, it's a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie. This car drives nicely, but as a daily driver, you have to remember this thing doesn't have power steering, and that can be an issue while parking. And while we're talking about parking, this thing has no rear view camera, and you basically can't see anywhere out of the back. As I said, the visibility in front is very good, out of the back, not so much. So when I go and drive somewhere, I look at the place where I'm going to park, and I just picture it in my head, so I know that there's nothing behind or how I need to park into it, which is quite the opposite of what you do with most cars nowadays, when all of them have backup cameras. Sometimes they have like the 360 view in the front, that kind of stuff. This car doesn't have. One thing I have to say is that when you're inside this car and you're driving around, it's actually not too bad. The only thing, if you have to drive long distances, is that it gets very drony, which you will hear in a bit because we're at a stoplight right now. In traffic, it's kind of hilarious because you're so low to the ground, and with any SUV parking up right next to you or coming up right next to you, they literally feel like a monster truck. And sometimes I'm afraid that they don't see me because this thing is so low. So that's also one thing to consider if you're daily in this car, that yeah, it's not very visible. That's why I have this bright yellow color. Helps a little bit. Interior quality, as we mentioned, not that great. You do have a stereo system which has a couple of speakers, and honestly, I usually listen to podcasts because music doesn't sound good at all, and especially that this car is so loud inside, you need to crank it up quite a bit, and that makes it even worse. Air conditioning is actually really good. I've driven this car in the summer at 40 plus degrees. The only issue I have is that you need to turn it up quite high for it to cool down the car, because the nozzles are just in front of you. You have nothing coming up from the side, so that might get in the way. But in general, if you're buying a car like this and you're planning on using it daily, you can use it daily with that air conditioning and all that. Just be aware that it's not going to be like a luxury car or anything else actually in this price range. So right now I'm doing around 100 kilometers an hour. I'm in 6th gear, just going a bit over 2,000 revs. And this is the noise you have to get used to. You have a lot of wind noise from the roof, obviously. You can hear the tires working. You can hear the exhaust from the back. So right now, my voice has to be a little bit louder so you guys can hear me and I can have a conversation. This car also comes with a Bluetooth connection with your phone, and when talking on my phone and when anyone calls me, they're like, oh, you're in the Alfa? I'm like, yeah, I am in the Alfa. So it is noticeable. It's not very easy to have a conversation in this car, let alone with a passenger or through a Bluetooth connection. Because the steering is so direct in this car, it's really great when you're trying to track it or go on B roads. But the problem is, because it has no power steering, any gust of wind will violently change the direction this car is going. I mean, sometimes I'm really caught off guard. So when I'm driving this car, I have to have both hands on the wheel. Not like in other cars where you're power steering, you could, rest your arm down, which is kind of good because, as I mentioned before, resting your arm down here just literally hurts. So both hands on the wheel all the time. You need to be really concentrated while driving this car. It's not an easy car to drive fast, and also the suspension doesn't really help with that. So the suspension I got with this is the standard one. You can get the sport suspension, and because this car is so stiff, it's actually not that bad of a ride. The only thing is that you feel that the car is heavier in the back. So when you're on track or going down those B roads and you're aggressively taking corners, you can start to feel that the rear is quite planted while the front is kind of lifting off. So you got this weird kind of transition where you don't have the traction in the front to place the nose where you want it to be. And that was something that I plan on, or was planning to change in this car, is go for a set of Öhlins and sort that out and actually get an upgraded tire kit for this. I have the optional wheels on this, which are the top of the line kind of wheels. That's how this car was spec'd by the dealership, and the tires that it comes with are the uprated Pirellis. So those do quite a good job of keeping you on the road and giving you confidence. But with a car like this that is kind of competing with something like a Lotus, you'd want more control over it. I mean, just last week I drove a McLaren 720S, and I know that car is very expensive and is in a whole different ballgame. But I drove that car on the BIC on the track, Bahrain International Circuit, in the rain, and that car felt easier to drive, even though it's also mid-engine and it's rear-wheel drive. It felt more planted with the front hooking up a lot more than this one. I actually managed to spin this car on the track last year. And it was very surprising because I did not really expect it to do that. And while driving something like the McLaren, I had no confidence issues. This thing has no nannies. This thing will eat you up if you're not paying attention. I really respect that in a car, but I do believe that it's a bit too much for something this pricey. And it will be that much nicer and easier to drive, and probably would sell more if this had a little bit more creature comforts. Just even comparing it to the new Alpine 110 that Renault made, that car has a lot more connectivity, it's a lot more comfortable, it's a bit bigger, you got more space. This car was literally built from the ground up to be a performance car, but Alfa just said that we want to make it look beautiful, and beautiful it is. Until this day, after a year of ownership, I cannot stop and not look at this car. Every time I get out of it, every time I walk by past it, it's just something so beautiful that will never get boring, I think. And if you're seriously looking at one of these cars, the only advice I'd give you is that make it your third car. Don't get it as a second car or a first car or a daily driver. Yes, you can daily drive it, but it's gonna drive you insane. Get this car so that you can drive it when it really matters. You can drive it when there's no traffic. You can take it out to the track. You can have fun with it. You can enjoy it with your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever. That is when this car really shines. And for all its faults, it's an Alfa Romeo, and you have to forgive an Alfa Romeo. And if you haven't owned one, you really need to, because it's something that you can't explain. This car was built with passion. You know, you can see that everything about it is what the Italians love. And the fact that it's not doing so well, it's not selling so well, who cares? They just took this car and they made it as well as they could. Obviously there are things that they could have done better, but at the end of the day, you get out, you look at it, it's beautiful. I mean, what else do you really want for a car? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to like, comment,